There's a secret hiding underneath Central Park, but it was forgotten for more than a century. Right here used to be a thriving middle-class African-American and Irish neighborhood, escaping the squalid conditions of lower Manhattan in order to find peace over here. But it was all destroyed in order to make way for Central Park as we know it today. About 250 residents were displaced. 50 homes, 3 churches, and 1 school gone. Seneca Village was located between 82nd Street and 89th Street between 7th and 8th Avenues. In 1825, John and Elizabeth Whitehead subdivided their land into 200 lots. The first buyer was Andrew Williams, a black shoe shiner, who bought 3 lots for $125. Then came Epiphany Davis, a store clerk, who bought 12 lots for $578. And then came the AME Zion Church, who bought 6 lots and established a place of worship and a cemetery for African Americans. Another family who was established here were the Lyons, who ran a boarding house for black sailors, but actually it was cover for a stop on the Underground Railroad, which was a network of safe houses to help slaves escape to the north. By 1855, 2/3 of the village were black, 1/3 were Irish, along with a few Germans. But New York State decided to claim eminent domain on this property and seize it in order to build Central Park, basically meaning that the state can confiscate this land in order to build a greater public good in exchange for proper market value of the property. However, most likely they weren't paid that proper market value. But with people living here, how did they even gain public approval to kick everyone out? Well, there was a smear campaign. Major publications such as the New York Daily Times said that this was a hovel filled with disease. Other newspapers claimed that these were squatters upon public land, which was not true. Fake news. And there's another wrinkle to this story. In order to be able to vote as a black male, you had to own $250 worth of property. And a significant portion of the black voting population lived right here. Hence, they lost their voting rights. In 1857, just 1 year after, there was an economic crash. So it's very unlikely that many of these black men were able to vote ever again. But sadly, this was not the only death knell for black Americans in the island of Manhattan. Just a few short years later, 1863, one of the worst civil disturbances in American history happened here, the Civil War draft riots, which were partly racially fueled because black Americans were exempted from the draft over to the Civil War. Many Irish Americans and other immigrant groups were fearful that black Americans would steal their jobs during the war, and a massive riot broke loose. At least 11 black Americans died. 3,000 black Americans were displaced. What do you think would have happened if Seneca Village was never destroyed? Stay curious, my friends.